what a day it's been so far. My heart is so moved, and I'm just in awe of the women that shared earlier, from Deirdre to Jess to Karis to Caitlin, wherever she is. Thank you so much. Can we just give these women another round of applause? It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of boldness to share so vulnerably and so powerfully and in such an inspiring way. Thank you so much. And I want to give another round of applause to Novella, the woman of the hour. Novella is an incredible friend. I've known Novella for 5 years now. It feels like longer, but 5 years when she became a Christian, and she was just a teen, a cute little teen on Queen Mary, and she fell in love with God and fell in love with God's purpose for her life, and to see where you are at today, leading a church. I mean, like, I'm so proud of you. And I want to really just lift up the sisters that have served behind the scenes to put this together. The sisters that were here at 8 a.m., blowing balloons and sticking things on the roses. Just the small detail that really makes us all feel seen, which is, the title of today. So I want to thank you all, and thank you for the privilege for being here and allowing me to share. It's really an honor to share. Birmingham has a huge place in my heart. My husband and I had the privilege to move to Birmingham in 2016 to plant the church here, and just to see how much it's grown is truly incredible. So going on with the theme of today, which is seen, to be seen. And what does it mean to be seen? It means more than just being noticed. We all want to be noticed, but it means to be recognized, to be valued, and to be acknowledged. It's to feel that your presence matters, your voice is heard, and your story is known. We've heard many stories today. Even in the play, there was a deep story there that I believe a lot of us can relate to. Being seen means you're not invisible, you're not forgotten, and you absolutely matter. And if you think about it, even in a funny way, I don't know if anyone else does this, but whenever you take a group picture, usually for the most part, if you look at it, you tend to find yourself first. Doesn't look like, did I make the picture? Or how do I look in this? Because we want to make sure we look decent, and we want to make sure that we're seen. So we want to be seen as women. And in a world today, especially in this digital age, this need can come up in so many ways. I looked up some statistics, and on social media, which is where a lot of people seek affirmation, over 60% of women say they feel worse after scrolling. They feel worse about themselves because they want to be noticed, but they end up feeling unnoticed. 60% of women. One study found out 7 in 10 women feel unseen in their workplace, or they feel overlooked in leadership positions. So this next statistic really shocked me. In relationships, many women feel emotionally invisible. And one survey revealed 53% of married women feel unseen by their spouses beyond their role. So even in a marriage where, in a way that's meant to be such a sacred situation, over half of married women can feel unseen. And so, yes, ladies, we want to be seen in many different ways. Physically, noticed, appreciated, emotionally. We had a sister speak about that today. We want to feel understood. We want to feel heard and validated. We want to be seen spiritually. We want to be women with purpose and depth and calling. And we want to be seen intimately as well, not just for what you do, but who you are. So whatever the case may be in terms of where you're at and how you feel, the good news is there is someone that sees you. There is a God that sees you. And today I'm going to walk through what that truly means to be seen and how that changes everything. And so the woman I want to focus on is a woman called Hagar. And actually Jess touched on her in her powerful sharing. And the story of Hagar in the Bible in Genesis, it's one of the most emotionally raw stories in the Bible. Here you have a woman on the margins. She's a single mom. She's a victim of power abuse. She's a foreigner in a home of promises, because Abraham had many promises. And yet in her lowest moment, God found her and deeply changed her life. And so I'm going to be reading from Genesis 16. If you have a Bible, please turn. If not, you can just listen in. But Genesis 16 from verse 1, and the Bible reads, "Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abraham, 'The Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I could build a family through her.' Abraham agreed to what Sarai said. So after Abraham had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian slave Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. And he slept with Hagar, and she conceived. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abraham, 'You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she's pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me.' Verse 6, 'Your slave is in your hands,' Abraham said. 'Do with her whatever you think best.' Then Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur, and he said, 'Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going?' 'I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai,' she answered. Then the angel of the Lord told her, 'Go back to your mistress and submit to her.'" Whew. Verse 10, the angel added, "I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count." And then skip down to verse 13. "She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her, 'You are the God who sees me.' For she said, 'I have now seen the one who sees me.' That is why the well was called Beer Lahairoi. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered." So, wow. Okay, so we see this intense story of this woman. Her life was centered around serving other people. She was in an abusive situation and forced to be with a man that was without her consent. No one spoke to her, no one gave her, she didn't give any permission. But sadly, in this time, ancient Near Eastern culture, it was very common and legal for a barren wife to offer her maidservant to her husband to bear her children on her behalf. And she wouldn't necessarily become a legal wife in a covenant sense. She'd be more like a surrogate concubine. So this was her life. She had to be with a man she had no attraction to. And Abraham was roughly about 85, 86 years old, because he was 75 years old when he left Haran. And Hagar, who was an Egyptian slave, she was likely acquired when Abraham and his wife were in Egypt around Genesis 12. And as a slave, to be a slave woman or a servant, usually you get gifted to someone or you get bought from your mid-teens to your late teens. And since she became pregnant and gave birth in Genesis 16, obviously along that time she had to have reached childbearing age. Her age would have been roughly, the time she gave birth would have been anywhere between 16 years old to 25, roughly around that time. And so just imagine the age comparison. You have a probably 16 to, early 20-year-old with an 85-year-old man. That would have been a very awkward, horrible situation. She had no mother to support her, no friends. And on top of that, she was mistreated. Sarai didn't even see her as a mother would, or just even as a fellow woman. Like, just if you just pause for a second, okay, you're asking her to do something huge. At least, like, show some compassion. Okay, look, I know this is a peak situation. I appreciate you. Like, something. Just nothing. She was mistreated. And the Hebrew word here for mistreated means anah, A-N-A-H. This means to afflict, to oppress, to humiliate, or to deal harshly with. And it's interesting, it's the same word used later on in Exodus to describe the way the Egyptians treated the Israelites harshly. So you can imagine how Sarai would have treated Hagar. Just imagine. She could have scolded her, shamed her, belittled her. She could have increased her workload or assigned her harsh tasks without any compassion. She was pregnant. And usually, your early stages of pregnancy, you're tired. You want a nap every second. She could have withheld rest. Sorry, no, you're not sleeping. You need to work. You need to sweep the house. Maybe she forced her to get up early, made her go to bed late, maybe even withholding food or water. You just imagine the mistreatment. And even as a mother myself, man, my heart goes out to her. And I tell you, I didn't see Hagar until I studied her out this week. I was like, man, she really was invisible. And all these emotions that come with being a mom. She's a young mom. She's pregnant. It's like, what's going on? Her body's changing. And, there's no support around her. And then on top of that, the woman you're helping is hating on you. And then even the man, okay, at least the man whose baby is in your stomach, at least maybe he can protect you. He says nothing. He's silent. And you just think about how she would have felt. Like, at least take care of your baby. Like, say something. She would have been screaming on the inside. She was not a person. She wasn't even a surrogate. She was just a womb carrier. She was unseen. And I just think about her despair. And again, my heart goes out to her. She would have lived being afraid of Sarai's bitterness, being unsure of Abraham's affection. Does he like me? What is this dynamic? And for sure, uncertain about her future. And when I think about Hagar, I think about my life. I was reflecting a lot about my life. And, for the most part of my life, of course, I love my childhood. As Novella shared, I was born and raised in London. But at age 5, our family moved to Nigeria. That's where my dad worked. He had his own clinic. He worked as a doctor. He had his own clinic in Nigeria. And my mum worked as a nurse, so she traveled a lot and later became a barrister. So they were both very hard-working individuals. And I was grateful because they provided for us. We always had everything we needed. And, moving back to Nigeria was different to life in London, very different. But, we adjusted and, we made it work. And I think about the dynamics between myself and my dad. And of course, no parents have favorites, but I generally felt like my dad's favorite, genuinely. And I get emotional speaking about my dad because he recently passed away. And, we're still in the process of arranging his funeral, thinking about his tributes. And so so many memories have been coming back to me. And it's really been comforting to my heart, just thinking about my dad. Whenever he would look at me, he would smile from ear to ear. And he didn't have the best teeth. He was a heavy smoker, actually. For a doctor, that wasn't a great lifestyle, but contradictory. But I would just see a beam in his eyes, the way he looked at me. And I noticed when he spoke to me, the pitch of his voice was like an octave higher. Now, maybe I'm making this up, but this was my perception. Like, he was just always soft-spoken towards me, very gentle. He would brag about me with when his friends were around, and he would magnify literally every single achievement, even if it wasn't that deep. And again, I was pretty average, didn't do anything exceptional, didn't achieve anything exceptional, but he made me feel like I did because he would magnify everything. Grades, even getting a new dress. Every birthday was a milestone with my dad. And I remember one day, this was a little bit manipulative of me, but I wanted to test his love for me. So, because I knew I just felt like his favorite. And I'm the last born of 4 children. I have 2 older brothers and an older sister. And he dropped me at school, and getting out of the car, I was like, oh man, Daddy, I forgot my lunch at home. I deliberately left it at home. Deliberately. And so I'm getting out of the car, I'm like, oh man, I forgot my lunch. I'm going to have no lunch today. And of course, my dad, he's not going to let me go hungry. So he gives me a whole bunch of money so I can have lunch. And just, again, it's low-key manipulative, but I just loved my dad. Even when he corrected me, he was never harsh, never shameful. I felt incredibly secure with my dad. I felt incredibly protected. What I felt with him, I could not explain. It was just unconditional love. He was my absolute favorite person, and I wanted to be like him. And he was the main reason he inspired me to pursue a career in medicine. I felt seen by my dad in every essence of the word, and I love that feeling. Until I entered a season of my life where I didn't feel seen. Unfortunately, my mom and dad's marriage, as most marriages happen, unfortunately, broke apart, and our family unit wasn't so whole. And I began to be seen by other people in a way that was different. I think I must have been about 7 or 8 years old for the first time when an older man, a neighbor, became very charming towards me. It was very odd. It wasn't in the innocent daddy kind of way. It was like he just feeding me compliments and promising me sweets. And obviously as a child, like sweets was like treasure. So you'll follow whoever gives you sweets. And so I felt seen by him. Again, it was different. And I remember the look in his eyes were not so innocent, but at that age, I couldn't explain what was off. And before long, I would find myself alone with him multiple times in his house, in his room, as he abused me. But no one saw, so it was okay. I began to be seen by other individuals who were a lot closer to home, family members, same blood. And they had the same not so innocent look in their eyes. It was, again, something I just couldn't explain. This feels off, but I can't put my finger on it, so I can't really tell anyone that what they're doing is wrong. And they would take opportunities to express their so-called love for me in obviously ways that were very inappropriate, finding myself alone with them in rooms while they were abusive. And the eyes that should have protected me became unsafe. And those that should have shielded me did the very opposite. But again, no one saw. And that left me very confused. And God forbid I ever talk to anyone about this. It was shameful. It was incest. I can really relate to Jess's sharing earlier. I felt dirty and I felt used. And I remember thinking to myself, every girl must go through this because everyone acts so normal. Like, everyone's acting so normal. And I began to look at other families like, is this happening in your home? Like, after dinner, does stuff happen with, men in your family? And as I grew older, I just began to dread the gaze of others. It just would get very, anxious. It'd make me panic, specifically the gaze of men, and specifically the gaze of men from my family, even those that did me no harm. There was of course, I had some really great male figures around me, but I just learned that certain eyes taught me that my worth is based on desire. And I didn't like that, and I couldn't trust that. So I became very familiar with fear at such a young age, became very quiet to myself. I wouldn't smile. People ask, why aren't you smiling? Even a birthday, I think I was 8 years old. A birthday, it was my birthday. You look at all my pictures, I look miserable. Like, why aren't you smiling? Like, I was just so shut down. I learned to shrink and hide. I didn't want to be seen. I wanted to cover up. I did not want to make myself look pretty or in any way attractive, because then men will see that as an invitation. And so I tried my best to just look unattractive, even boyish at one stage, like a tomboy. And that wasn't modesty, that was just self-preservation. It was survival mode, because I did not want to be used over and over again. I would dread going to bed at night and wondering, okay, who's coming into my room tonight? Or waking up and seeing a tall figure just watching me, just, again, ready to please himself. And I did not feel seen by God at this time. Why would he let this happen? Like, why? I'm under the same roof as these individuals, and nothing is being done. My view of men became distorted. My heart went dark. I hated men with a passion. But it was interesting, because on the outside, you would never tell. It was very calm and gentle and soft, but my heart was, I could feel palpitations a lot, especially when I was around men. I despised even boys, even as I grew older. Boys that were younger than me, I despised them, because I thought, you're just going to grow up and become an abuser. So even the way I looked at boys, innocent boys that definitely hadn't done anything to me, became like repulsive to me. My heart was so dark. I remember once praying in my heart, like, God, never give me a son, because if you give me a son, I will despise him. Like, my heart was dark. It was so dark. I remember as a teen feeling so depressed and just having two personas. Like in school, I'll be happy and fake, pretending everything is okay, but I'll come home and I'll just want to die. One evening, I threw some pills. I just wanted to numb out. I don't even know what I wanted to do, take my life or end up in, I don't know what it was. I just threw pills into this drink to take, but that didn't do anything, to be honest. And to be honest, they weren't even like toxic pills. I think they were iron tablets. I was anemic. Those actually helped me. I found it out later. I was like, oh, no wonder it didn't work. Oh, man. Yeah, I was very suicidal. I don't know if you remember, not everyone will remember, but in the early 2000s, there was a very controversial pop artist. She had a controversial video in which, in her music video, it shows her drowning. And you're nodding. I would watch that over and over and over again. And it was like, I just wanted to do that. I'm like, that's how I'm going to take my life. And so I fill up the bathtub, but I never did, because I was too cowardly to follow it through. But I was so deeply suicidal. I just wished I would go to bed and not wake up. I was no longer living with my dad, far from the person I felt most seen by. At this point, we were back in London, and under the gaze of people I considered to be monsters. I was insecure, felt used, and felt useless. And just even in school, again, like I said, I was just pretty average. I didn't really obtain anything like wowzers, no more than the average person. But I missed having a dad that would just brag about every little thing. So I missed that, bragging about my small accomplishments. I didn't really stand out that much in friendship groups. Like I wasn't, the loudest. I wasn't the coolest, the fastest. It was, again, just unnoticed. I was just there. And I didn't like that. But as I grew older, I made a discovery. I found a way that I could be seen the way I wanted to be seen. a way that I could manufacture the security that my heart desired. And then I began to chase what was my drug of choice. That was the approval of people. I learned how to people please, which really means to be cowardly and not honest, because you're compromising your own convictions. I could pretend to be something that I'm not to fit in. For example, okay, I don't really want to go to the clubs, but absolutely, I'll go clubbing. I'll wear the skimpiest outfits. I'll be promiscuous. If that's going to make people like me, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I did. I don't really smoke, don't like smoking, but if it means, again, that I fit in and I look cool, then of course I'm going to take a puff and pretend that I liked it. And I did. Again, I wasn't very honest. I would just say things people wanted to hear. And even when I saw my friends doing things that were wrong, I wouldn't speak up because I did not want to be rejected by them. So I'm not going to be rejected by you, so I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. Yes, I will do exactly the same thing. And that was a lie. I remember becoming a bully in school to be seen by my friends. I compromised a lot, especially in uni. And I mastered the art of being deceitful to manipulate how I was seen by people, even in a religious sense. I wanted to be seen as a good Christian girl, but, of course, no one sees what's in the heart. Of course, I was far from it. And so people-pleasing, being dishonest with myself, for that, I felt seen for a minute, but really and truly, it was like a spiritual placebo pill. It has no effect. It's a fake form of security and actually leaves you feeling even less unseen. And it was so exhausted. It was so exhausting. Constantly insecure, constantly wanting to be seen, wanting to be acknowledged, wanting approval, and constantly not trusting. Just felt like I was in a dark spiral. And much like Hagar in Genesis 16, God found me 14 years ago. God found me in a spiritually dark place. And he said, I see you. Not with the eyes of impurity or with eyes to hurt, but with eyes that cherish every fragment of my being. He brought some incredible women into my life to help me see him through the Bible. And it was so bizarre and not what I expected, because I was a very closed person. But God says, I see your pain, but I have purpose for you. He said, I see the idols in your heart, but I'm inviting you to come and worship with me. He said, I see your fear of man and your desire for perfection, but I want you to experience my perfect love. God saw me. And some of us maybe here today, maybe you were seen as objects, not as people. Maybe you were seen as strong. Some of us here had to be strong growing up in our families, but never supported. Maybe you were seen as useful, but you were never valued. You were just seen for what you could do, not really for who you are. They're two very separate things. Or maybe you don't feel seen in your family, in your friendship groups, in your workplace. Or maybe you don't feel seen in your suffering. Suffering can be very lonely when people don't understand what you're going through. Or even today, maybe no one has really noticed you today. I hope not. I hope you have been noticed. But maybe you don't feel noticed today. You don't feel seen. And you're ready to leave and leave this conference unnoticed and unseen. If that's any of you today, I want to inspire you to change your narrative, because you are seen, whether you believe it or not. Whether you feel it or not, you are seen. I have two incredible daughters, and when we play hide and seek, they always hide in the same place. So, the same place. This is how God sees us, and they really feel like they're invisible. They feel like they're invisible. It's beautiful, but they may feel invisible, but I see them. And that's how God is with us. He sees you. You may feel invisible. You may even try and hide from God, but he sees you like a parent would. God met Hagar in the wilderness, not in the palace or in a place of perfection. So maybe you're here today and you feel like your life is a desert, your life is dry, or you're in the wilderness. That's a perfect place for God to meet you. And now is a perfect opportunity. And Hagar's story didn't stop there in Genesis 16. She obviously gave birth to her son Ishmael, and years later, Sarah gave birth to her son, Isaac. But that wasn't enough. Her mistress wanted her to be cast out. And she demanded that Hagar and her son leave. And that's what happened. They sent them packing with minimal provisions. So basically, she was told, go out to the wilderness again, be a single mom. You'll get one payment of child support, and then after that, you're on your own. You have to figure it out. So she was, if you read Genesis 21, that was her, like, she literally went into the wilderness to die, and her son also to die. And I'll just read verse 17. It says, so it's very powerful. It says, God heard the boy crying. So her son was crying because he's hungry. He's about to die. And the angel of the Lord called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, what is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation. So God opens her eyes and she sees a well. She sees provision that was already there. And so at times, again, we can feel abandoned. We feel like nobody sees us, nobody cares. You know, the list goes on. But actually, God is already working behind the scenes. He's already provided. He already sees, he hears, and he provides. In John 4, you have the story of the Samaritan woman. She was a woman that lived a very promiscuous lifestyle, like a prostitute. And Jesus saw all of her. He knew everything that she did. But he still invited her in to drink the living water. And she didn't run from Jesus. She ran to others, shouting, come see a man that told me everything I ever did. Like, come, like, let me share with you a man that changed my life. So God's sight doesn't destroy, it actually heals. God doesn't see us to condemn us. He sees us to restore us. And oftentimes we do want to hide. And this has been like half of my life. Like we want to hide because we feel ashamed or we feel unredeemable. There's no way, like if you knew what I've done, there's just no way that you won't judge me. Or you feel if your heart is exposed, the real you is exposed, your real deepest thoughts or your deepest desires or whatever it is, your deepest fears, if that's exposed, you feel maybe you'll be misunderstood and you don't want the emotional turmoil that comes with that. But if you look at a wound, for all the medics, scientists here, if you look at a wound, in order to treat it, you have to expose it. Expose the flesh, the tissue, the muscles, the nerves, so you see what you're working with. So once it's exposed, you're like, okay, we can now stitch it up or glue it if it's not that deep. And so exposure is painful. To be seen sometimes is painful and can be shameful as well. But it's necessary to really get healing on a deep level. But how do we get rid of that shame? Because nobody wants to feel shame. How do we get over the shame of being exposed? Psalm 34 verse 5, I'll read it. It says, those who look to him are radiant. Those who look to God are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame. So when we look to God, who is our maker, the lover of our soul, when we look to him, we can reflect his light. We can be filled with hope and a peace and a joy that shines outwards, regardless of our circumstances. He removes our shame. When we look to God, he leaves us with no regrets. And when you gaze back at him, so God is looking to you. When you look back at God and you gaze at him, you have harmony, but you've got to look to him. When you look to God, your perspective changes. Your challenges, you'll see your challenges differently. I was speaking to an incredible woman who sat next to me, and she just shared something very powerful. You know, when you go through struggles with a different eye, you see the good in what you're going through. I would never in a million years, never ever, have believed by allowing myself to be open, to be exposed, to be seen, and allowing other spiritual women in my life to see my heart, to see my sin, nobody wants, their sin out there. I would never have imagined I'd be standing here today. Like, never. Married to a man. In my head, I would never want to be married to a man because of how I felt, with 2 incredible children and having the privilege to lead a ministry. Like, that is to God's glory, and that is the result of allowing myself to be seen. And I see the fruits of that in a lot of women here, in allowing yourselves to be seen and to not be afraid of judgment, not be afraid of, X, Y, and Z, but to allow God heal you. So, ladies, God sees what others can't. He sees you in your tears that no one sees. He sees your faith. Maybe others can't see your faith. He sees your quiet obedience. Maybe people don't see what you're doing behind the scenes. He saw you in your mother's womb, even before she knew you were pregnant. She was pregnant. He sees the number of hairs on your head. He sees you in your shame. He sees you. He sees all of your needs. He sees you because he's absolutely in love with every precious soul here. If you're going to leave with anything, just leave with that knowing and believing. I think one of the ladies that shared earlier shared this, is to believe that you are seen and to see the one who sees you. And that's really my challenge of today, is to dare to be seen and dare to see the one who sees you. So if you're here today and you were invited by a friend or a family member, or maybe you just saw the event online, or maybe you were just walking by and you just popped in, whatever the case may be, however you got here, don't leave without being seen. Get open with someone. Get into a discussion with someone. Get into a life talk with any one of the sisters that helped put this together, and let them share with you through scriptures how through the Bible your life can be turned around. Even if you feel that maybe you do feel seen and all of that, there's a deeper, God wants to call you deeper. And so, again, be inspired by Hagar and her life and how God delivered her a promise in her pain, and be inspired by God, who loves you so much. And no man can ever compare to the one who saw you first. And so thank you so much, ladies, for giving me your heart and allowing me to share.